Hey everybody, so we have just a little bit less than 2 weeks to go until the release of Green Monk, Blood of the Martyrs. Thank you so much to everyone that supported the book so far, that's pre-ordered the book so far. If you haven't pre-ordered it yet, you can still pre-order it over Amazon. I've included a link below in the description. You can also go to your local comic book shop and ask them for a copy. That's actually like the best way to do it, to support that local business. I also wanted to let you guys know about kind of leading up, that week leading up to the launch of Green Monk. I'm going to do this like final countdown to the launch of Green Monk, where I'm going to have 3 days of just like surprises and thank yous for people that have supported the book. So please stay tuned for that. I'm going to be putting out some really cool stuff. And you know, there's going to be some opportunities and some information about how to actually like get some giveaways. I'm going to be doing like original art from the book. So if you're interested in original art from the book, I mean, I'm not really planning on selling it anytime soon. This is really your opportunity to get it. So stay tuned for kind of this like countdown to the final countdown to the launch of Green Monk. And it's all going to culminate with a launch party, a real live launch party at a real live location with mostly, you know, friends and family in this local area. And we're going to live stream that as well, and that's going to be another opportunity for you to like pick up some giveaways. So especially if you are planning on getting the book on September 26th at your local comic book shop, I would highly recommend that you be there for the launch party, for the live stream of the launch party, because you in particular will have some special opportunities to get some really cool giveaways. So, and those that are pre-ordering it, I'm also going to have some giveaways for you. That's not gonna come out. You're probably not gonna get your book till after October 2nd, because October 2nd is when it comes out to bookstores, which includes Amazon, and then it may take some time to ship. So I've also got some giveaways kind of set apart for you guys. So in the meantime, if you would really like to help to continue to support the book, I've included a link below. That is the book trailer, or maybe I'll include it up here. Like you can put a little link up here someplace. I'll put one of those little notes up there that has a link to the book trailer. Sharing that book trailer is a really awesome way to help support the book. So that being said, let's jump into today's video. We are talking about character design. So today what I would like to do is give you an overview of my character design process. Now this is going to be slightly abbreviated. All of the steps here could be really expanded quite a bit. So I kind of have like 3 steps I'm going to show here. One is like collecting reference. The next is kind of exploring different designs, and kind of the third step is refining a design. And each one of those steps could take just a ton of time. It could take as much time as you want. It's almost infinitely expandable how much time you want to spend. Of course, with the needs of a project, you do kind of need to constrain things by time, but when I was doing concept art, there were times when I spent a whole day with each one of these steps. So there's really a lot of work you could do with these if you wanted to, but they could be abbreviated as well. So let me kind of jump into it. First thing I want to do is I'm just going to go to my Pinterest page. I'll include a link for this if you want to check. I just keep all my reference there, general reference, but then I do keep some pages for specific project reference. And this is the one I'm working on right now for a character for a pitch that I'm kind of preparing. And I'll show you kind of the reference that I've gone about collecting here. And this took me, several hours to collect. Oh, maybe not several hours, maybe an hour or so to collect some of this reference. The character I'm doing is an elf, but he's kind of an elf based on this aesthetic that comes from like Elf's Quest or Dark Crystal, kind of a smaller childlike elf. And he's also a war veteran who has suffered from burns, so he's going to be a scarred war veteran. So I wanted to look at some actual images of war veterans with scarring, just to get that connection to reality. I didn't want to rely on kind of the cliches. And the last thing I was really interested about is I kind of, how I want them to dress, I want to kind of match a certain 80s aesthetic that I feel is kind of typified by Akira. I'm looking a lot at Akira. I'm looking a lot at, Michael Jackson, things like that. I'll show you some of the Michael Jackson stuff in a little bit. And I'm just going to get into that a little bit towards the end of this design, but here's kind of like a coat I'm thinking of using for his coat. Here's some images of Michael Jackson. There's this kind of like red coat, this red jacket you've got Michael Jackson wearing, that you've got Kaneda wearing. There's something about that aesthetic that I really like, and so I'm going to kind of try and draw upon that aesthetic as I'm creating that design. So those are just a few of the images I'm kind of thinking about as I'm doing this design. Now, I've already started on the first step here, so I just want to kind of give a brief overview of the first step here. I spent a couple hours just exploring a lot of different designs, different proportions, different kind of shapes of things, and I've kind of started leaning towards this idea. The more and more I thought about it, I really want to push the idea of the scarring and make it as extreme as possible, just to show that it really affects who this character is, those experiences that left of the scarring. I've got a couple of sheets of vellum in here I'm using for doing a couple layers on things and exploring them further. And so this is a really tough design to figure out. I think a lot of these designs, they didn't quite fire right for me. They aren't quite working, but little by little, as I spent a few hours working through these designs, I got closer to a design that I started to like. So these are kind of some of my last designs here. Again, I'm working with vellum, trying to think about how this character might have looked before the burns, and then after the burns. So, and I'll put little marks that kind of designate some of the designs that I like. And then those are the ones I can use for refining more. And I did find an old sketchbook where I had worked with this character before, and there's some pieces of these designs I really liked as well that I'm going to try to implement in the sketches that I do in just a little bit here. So I'm going to play this one a little bit faster than real time, and that's just because this took me about 45 minutes to draw this whole thing, and I don't think I really need to show this real time and show you exactly what I'm doing. If I can show it little bit faster, I think we'll still get the main idea. So it's going to make me look a little bit more magical than I actually am doing this design. But you should get some of the basic ideas. So here I'm just kind of starting with some of the designs that I showed you previously, kind of a rough idea of some of those designs. And I'm not even looking at those designs too closely. I took a quick look at them, and I'm just trying to go with a feeling of what I liked from those designs. I really went back and forth quite a bit with this character, whether I wanted him to have a left eye or not have a left eye. And I kind of ended up going with, I'm trying to create a design where he does not have a left eye, where it almost feels like it could be like an eye patch or something like that, or functions in that way. And then trying to find a way to kind of indicate the nose. And so I feel like already this is getting to a place that I like, but what I'm going to do here is this is a very common thing I do as I'm exploring designs, is I just do overlays. So I'm going to, create a transparency and just kind of draw over this last design and just kind of start exploring some more subtle variations I could make on the last design. So one way to kind of think about this is kind of the first phase, when you kind of go very broad and you're trying to explore lots of different possibilities, and then kind of this third phase, this kind of final phase, is really when you're trying to figure out the details. You're trying to really narrow your focus and kind of refine the design. And this is, I almost think of this is kind of the first, that kind of second stage, I guess, because the first stage is the reference. The second stage is really about exploration. It's about trying to find lots of ideas, and this is really the editing phase. This is where I'm trying to figure out how I can make that design better. And again, I'm going back and trying to figure out, okay, how would this character look as pre-burn? What would this character look like? And I already feel like I'm starting to settle on some designs that I like. But again, right now it's about refining, it's about simplifying. I want to do as much work here that I can, because eventually when I get into the comic that's going to happen anyway when I get to the comic. I'm going to start drawing this character over and over again, and eventually, just over time, I'm going to settle on a design. And sometimes you can see that in an artist's work. Like my favorite example is Garfield. I love looking at the old Garfield comics because the original Garfield looks like this giant, sack of oatmeal, and just over time he kind of tightens up and firms up into the more like little ball of tense cat plastic or whatever he is. And you can even see that if you look at some of my work, you can see that when I did Jim Henson's Storyteller, my design for the Storyteller, I kind of figured out as I was doing that comic. So I want to do that as much as possible in this phase. Like I kind of want to just redraw this character over and over again and refine him over and over again until I settle on something that just feels like something I'm happy with and something that I can kind of do over and over again. So there's a lot of things I'm trying to figure out here where there's little subtle details like where the lines on his face should go, and those may seem inconsequential, but all those little details make a big difference in the long run. Here I'm just kind of checking the symmetry of the image. So I'm getting closer and closer to something I like here. I'm trying to just experiment with some different details. I think this is going to be kind of the type of thing though where I can kind of fudge the details a little bit from panel to panel, and it may not matter too much. Again, on the Storyteller, that's one thing I did with his cloak. If you look closely, the design on his cloak really changes from panel to panel. But it's really the big stuff that I need to get right, that I really have to get correct. So here I am, I'm kind of working on the profile here, trying to figure out the profile, get something I like, trying to figure out what the burnt ear might look like, the scarred ear might look like. And then I'm going back through here, and this is just kind of figuring out how the other side might look. So, I have to admit, I'm already feel like I'm getting pretty close. This is a design I've been working on for a long, long time. And, I'm getting ready to put together this pitch, and I feel like I'm getting closer to a design that I could be happy with. And of course, the last step here, and this is really important to point out, is that when I do character designs, I almost always start with the face. I want to make sure that I have a face that I really like, that has a design that I can connect with. And after I figure out the face, that's when I go back and I start working on the body, the costume, that sort of thing. It was very in vogue for quite a while in concept design and Viz Dev to start with silhouettes. And that's just never been something that made sense to me with a character, to start with a silhouette. I usually, at some point, I will get to silhouette. Like silhouette will become an important thing to me at some point, but I don't feel like it's necessary to solve the problem of silhouette from the very beginning of your design. So now here I'm just trying to figure out some details on the costuming, and this is something I could still play around with a ton. Going back and checking out some of my reference. So I almost feel like with costuming, I'm at the place that I was before when I was just exploring lots of faces. Like this is a phase where now I could do 10 or 20 different variations on costume. And that's kind of what you'll see me doing, is I'm just trying lots of different things, changing proportions, trying to find something that works better, and I'm just little by little getting something closer to what works for me. Now, one other thing that I haven't explored here that I really want to explore as I'm taking this design further is I want a hat for this character too, because he is kind of a little bit of a character that would want to hide his identity a little bit. So I need to figure out some sort of hat. So that's another thing on my to-do list of things that I need to explore for this character. And again, I think I'm going to be looking to Akira for kind of ideas on designs for that hat. Hopefully I can get something that's my own at some point as well.
So I'm just working on refining details of the jacket. Kind of the last version of the jacket wasn't quite puffy enough. It was a little bit too trim for me. The first one was too puffy, and so this is kind of somewhere in the middle of puffiness. And I should also mention with this character, one of the important elements of this character is that he's an amputee. So it only has one arm, and at some point, he's also an amputee that has a robotic arm at some point, which was interesting because on the live stream the other day, we had a request for a character with a robotic arm. And we're kind of talking a little bit about how interesting the mythology of robotic arms is. How that's if you have a character that's a cyborg, you're guaranteed that the character's going to have a robotic arm. We have this real fascination particularly with arms when it comes to cybernetics. I think it probably says something very strong about what arms mean to us at a very subconscious level. But anyway, I'm certainly fascinated with robotic arms as well, and so this is going to be a character that his robotic arm is going to play a big role in the story. And you see me kind of turning the canvas a little bit. Kind of like to turn the canvas just to kind of get a different perspective on the design that I'm doing. It's also good to flip the canvas, even though you don't really see me doing that here, but that's also another good technique. Flip it, back and forth to kind of see how it looks, symmetrical or asymmetrical. So anyway, that's kind of like my first steps on doing this design. Really the three most important steps: kind of gathering reference, starting with exploring lots of broad ideas, and then refining those ideas into something that I really like. Like I said, I'm probably going to do more of that with the body. I'm still going to play around with the face more. I think that can still settle a little bit. But hopefully I'll get to a point where I have a design that I really like. But anyway, I hope that was helpful to you. I hope that gives you a little bit of a template that you can follow in doing your own character designs. And if you like this video, please hit the like button. Please subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon.